I think I totally agree with Reed. You know, because if the town owns a building, you know, they're going to rent it. You know, I don't know about really subsidizing. I think that's a little different word than, you know, written it out and have, you know, a business come in. But I think with, you know, because we do have, and we're going to have some empty buildings, and sometimes, you know, if all fails, maybe the town has to take over the building, but then they need to rent it out. They need to pay for that building. We just can't have it sitting there. But as far as subsidizing, no, I don't think that the town should subsidize.
Well, I am opposed to any kind of government subsidization of any private businesses whatsoever. I think there is a stark difference between economic development and picking winners and losers. I think that, you know, in almost any setting, whether it's, you know, urban or rural, you know, we have to really look at how many shell buildings we have, how low is our tax rate, what's our fee development structure look like, and what are our regulations? Because if we decrease regulations, lower taxes, get these development fees down, the businesses will come. But and I have no problem, of course, leasing government real estate at fair market value. But to subsidize a particular business, I don't think that's the best use of taxpayer dollars. And that's what I have to say.
I would agree with Jordan. I don't like the word subsidizing. However, there are incentives that I believe many towns give to companies to encourage them to come and settle in their town. And it usually is worked out to where it's really a benefit in the end result, so that the town gets more sales tax or some other major benefit. And there are some young businesses that maybe need a little help in hand. I don't know how things have been done, but I believe in incentives. That's all.
I'd use maybe a little bit more analytical, analytical approach, and try to find out what the cost benefit of businesses might be. Not specifically one business, and I'm not saying it's kind of like Jordan, not necessarily subsidizing it, but how can you use those dollars to leverage maybe not just that business, but other businesses coming in, whether it's services offered, whether if it's infrastructure, whether, as an example, let's say fiber optics, who wouldn't benefit by bringing in 10 megs of bandwidth versus 1.5, which some of us have right now. If you call that subsidy, then okay, I'd be more in favor of something, inclined to favor something like that approach. The market generally takes care of itself in terms of businesses. How that happens, though, is that the government can be, and the town for that matter, can be a participant in that action, but not directly handing out, here's my wallet, write a check, thank you very much. It's got to come back some way, shape, or form, whether it's in traffic, whether it's increased tax revenue from sales taxes, whether it's that business that begets other businesses to come in. It's a satellite. That can help everybody else out, and then that helps retain some of those tax dollars that are flowing out of this area back and stays in this area. I'm out of time.
Good. 6 more seconds.
I'll put that in the bank to that's one of my extra.
I don't think that was part of the articulated ground rules.
I'm trying.
Nice try.
Jane.
I don't really care for the word subsidize. That has an entirely different meaning to me. What I do think is what Linda was saying, that we do very often, is consider incentives for businesses to come. And the reality is businesses ask for incentives. They want us to pay or not charge them for something in order to come in. The board considers all of that very carefully, how much money they have to use for that. And if it is something that it will benefit the entire community, that has a much different feeling than if it's just a one-shot thing. The storefronts program that we have is also something that goes to to businesses, and that is to help them. We give a certain amount. There's a cooperation between the business and the town, and we give them a certain percentage toward painting the front of their business so that it looks nice in the town, or adding a awning or whatever. So that is money that we do give to other business to help them compete in the marketplace.
Are you ready? I believe that just to give some money, like Milton said, write them a check is not the answer. It's got to be done. Incentives, though, are a great way to go if they're stated beforehand. So there is a rules to it. And there has to be, with the rules, there has to be openness. And so no matter who comes to us, exception is like Scientific American coming in out here. Now, the community didn't know anything. So there has to be some openness for that kind of stuff. And then, and it has to pay for itself. If you have a business and it gets a lease on town building, that it has to be at fair market value, and so that we get a return on the money that we spend to upkeep that building. Because if we don't make any money, then, and we should make a little, if we don't make any money, why have them in there, the business in there? And so I think that there has to be a fund set up and rules and regulations on that. And if you, the other thing is on incentives, and some of it is if you don't have it now, you can, if you don't have it and they go away, you didn't lose anything except maybe the ability to have more. And so you look at it from what do we have to give away to get something else.
Okay, thanks. We got the second question here, and again, remind everybody, Jim started? Yeah, so we got another question here. Everybody has a minute and a half to respond, and this is kind of specific, and with the warm weather getting warmer all the time, pretty soon we're going to have to deal with mosquitoes. And this question from the audience: Johnstown sprays for mosquitoes in the summer. Milliken does not. I have asked the mayor and the town board member to request this. Nothing has ever happened. Is spraying for mosquitoes in Milliken possible? And we'll start with Reed.
Is it possible? I would assume yes. I know back, let's see, 7 years ago when the, whatever they were worried about, what was that? West Nile, thank you. When there was a big West Nile scare, I know that we sprayed for mosquitoes. So is it possible? Yes. Is it a good use of the town's budget, I think, is a better question. And to be completely honest, I don't know. I don't know what it costs to spray for mosquitoes. So, you know, I could BS an answer, but it wouldn't make any sense to do so. So I'll leave it at I do not know if it makes financial sense to do it. I would love it if the town did it, because I'd like to sit outside without getting eaten by mosquitoes, but does the town have the money in the budget? And does it make sense? That's something that I'll have to wait and see if I get on board.
Well, I don't know if it's really wise to spray. There's a lot of people complain when we have sprayed, you know, for mosquitoes. They don't like the spray. Of course, I don't like mosquitoes either. But I think, you know, like the lakes and stuff, they do put stuff, you know, in the lakes and stuff, so we don't have the mosquitoes. And that's what they did with West Nile here. I don't know. I'm just kind of excited, you know, about whether we should spend the money for that. Because a rainstorm comes away, you know, comes by, you know, maybe if you spray in the morning and that night when we have a big rainstorm, then it hardly does any good too. But yeah, I'm undecided about that, whether we should, because like I said, people with illnesses do not want you to spray. So we have that too. So, you know.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Lois. I think during the summertime, a lot of people have their windows open. I know I do. And so if the town did at any point decide to spray, you know, due to some kind of mosquito-borne disease or transmitted disease, that we would have to notify all of the residents exactly the day we were going to spray to make sure that everybody knew to keep their windows closed in the evening and things like that. Because I've seen them spraying in Windsor before, and right on the lawns, and a lot of people had their windows open. So, you know, that's something we'll definitely need to communicate to the residents of Milliken. We do decide to do that because there are a lot of people with asthma and COPD and things like that. So, that's my answer.
I guess I really don't know. I don't know the cost or anything. If they're taking care of the ponds, that's great. I do think residents need to be a little responsible for themselves if they've got a lot of standing water. I know the town has put in our newsletter some of the things you can personally do to take care of your area. So it's good to be brought up to the board, but I do think residents need to be a little responsible for themselves as well.
You kind of need to determine what the benefit and the cost might be from the residential standpoint, not just dollars. I'm not just saying dollars. I'm saying is it going to be beneficial to do so, and it's almost year by year for that matter. You can allocate if your dollars are such and it's important for the community, you can allocate some dollars towards that. If you need to shift some of the funds because it's a wetter year, whatever it might be, you have to have some flexibility to it. If it's not needed, fine, put it in the fund for next year or allocate those dollars elsewhere. But there's still a cost involved in it, and you need to consider how beneficial it is for this person or the entire community. Moreover, what Linda has suggested from a preventative standpoint is, I think, important. How do we do that? Whether it's trying to, let's say, converse with some of the dairy farmers out here. When you've got full tires out there, what you're doing is you're incubating, let's say, the heat, the water accumulation. It breeds and it breeds and it breeds. Maybe somehow we ought to be able to say, cut those tires in half, put it down on your silage pits. You don't breed as much. Because all that, it's not just here in town, it's actually surrounding areas as well that contribute to maybe the problems that we perceive. It may not be perceived as a problem elsewhere, but you get the benefits of something like that, but you also get some of the detriments of something like that as well. So I think you need to say, okay, it's not just an easy yes or no, do we spray, don't we spray? Let's analyze it a little bit, but don't run it into the ground. Make a mistake.
Down at the other end, Janie.
Is it possible to spray? Absolutely. But I like the other comments that we need to be very flexible. I think they do inspect and take some of the mosquitoes and see if there's any West Nile or disease. They do put a substance or a cake or something in the stagnant areas where there is definitely standing water. But you've got to remember it's more than one application too, because the larva continues to go on. It's not all happening at one time. So you have to do this more than once. So they do keep track of whether we have any kind of problem with the mosquitoes. Annoying, they're terribly annoying. And it becomes I become very unhappy when I can't sit on my deck at evening because I'm just being eaten alive. But we can do something in our own yards also to help mitigate the mosquitoes locally within our own area.